Hello, everyone. On today's podcast episode, I'm going to talk about lies, and the detriment of lying. You know, many other podcast episodes, I've always said that, if you're put in a place where, you know, you feel like you have to lie, the best thing is just to keep your mouth shut, you know, or best thing is or change the conversation. You either keep your mouth shut or change the conversation. You get punished for lying in this world. You don't have to tell the truth, but you shouldn't lie. You know, that's the principle of life is you don't have to tell the truth. If someone asks you a question, you don't have to tell the truth, but you shouldn't lie. You know, so you always have the right to remain silent, or you can just do what? Ignore the question, change the subject, or just tell them the truth. Tell them, I don't want to lie. I don't want to lie, or I don't want to answer the question. The question is not, the type of question I want to answer. I don't feel comfortable answering the question. The many excuses you can make, but the best thing is, you know, if you don't feel like telling the truth, no, you'll never be punished for not telling the truth, but you will be punished for lying. You know, and you always have the right to either lie, tell the truth, or not say anything at all. There's always a middle point. The middle point is not to say anything at all. And, it's easier to lie than it is to tell the truth in this life, in this world. It's easier to go to hell than it is to go to heaven. And, one of the lies that I hear all the time is, drug addicts telling me how great it is to be a drug addict. Someone who does cocaine, if I tell them, don't do drugs, they'll say, they'll start yelling and screaming, and start mocking you for telling them that, doing cocaine is wrong, it's bad for you. They'll tell you that they'll give you all the benefits of doing cocaine. They'll never, a drug addict will never admit that the drug they're doing is bad for them. Someone who does weed will never admit that, smoking weed is bad for you. Someone who does nicotine or cigarettes will never admit that, smoking cigarettes is bad for you. Someone who chews tobacco will never admit that doing tobacco is bad for you. Someone who smokes corpses, yeah. There are people in this world, I read a news article a while back that talked about people digging up graves and smoking the corpses of other people's family members. You have to be careful with these morgues and these mortuaries. Is that I've heard too many news articles of people digging up graves, of people, going back to their parents or their family members' graves, right? To investigate, only to find out that the grave is empty. It happens too often. You have to be careful who you send your parents to. Some of these morgues, some of these mortuaries, and some of these places, are liars. They're too, it's so easy to lie. It's easier to sin than it is to be a good person. It's easier to go to heaven. It's easier to go to hell than it is to go to heaven. And these morgues, you have to know that they also they fall for that dichotomy as well. They have that same problem. It's easier for them to use your parents' corpses to do evil than it is for them to just bury them normally. Why? There are benefits. There are benefits for being an evil villain in this world. There was a case recently that I read. I think you can find it online. I don't know the title of the story, but literally the story was a food place, right? Ended up finding someone's ring inside their meat. It was ground meat, right? They found somebody's ring inside the ground meat. Because they found a person's ring inside the ground meat, they end up calling the cops because they thought that, Why would someone's ring be inside someone's inside ground meat? It makes no logical sense. And then the cops, after investigating, end up finding out that you know the local morgue had been selling people's bodies to people's bodies that should be sent to a mortuary, sent to the grave. They were sending it to a butcher shop, and then having that the bodies being ground into ground beef, and then sold at local stores. So you have to really be careful where you send your parents, or your loved ones, because you don't know what these guys are doing with the corpses. Some of these people smoke corpses. Yes. Some of these drug addicts smoke human corpses. So if you're someone who who's not paying attention to what you're doing, you just think that these mortuaries or these places that deal with dead people are honest folks. They're not. There's another case where I found where the cops end up finding out that they've been sleeping with the corpses, man. These mortuary people, these morgue people, they were sleeping with the corpses, the female corpses. They ended up, getting caught because the family members found out that the clothing and the body of the person was just looked out of place. So they ended up calling the cops to investigate. And they ended up, the cops ended up finding out that the corpses have been getting raped while at the morgue. So you have to really be careful what you're getting yourself involved in. People are very dishonest. They pretend to be kind publicly, but it's easier to lie than tell the truth. It's easier to pretend to be a kind person than to actually be a real kind person. It's easier to go to hell than it is to go to heaven. So you have to understand that it's easier for people to sin than for them to do good. It's easier for drug companies, people who sell drugs, to tell you that these drugs that they're selling has all these benefits, knowing full well that these things will kill you. They know full well that alcohol will kill you. They know full well that weed will kill you. They know full well that cigarettes will kill you. They know full well that meth and cocaine and Adderall and all these drugs, they'll kill you, but they don't care, because it's easier to make money dishonestly than it is to make money honestly. It's so easy to make money dishonestly. There's so many benefits to lying and trickery that people just choose that path automatically. It doesn't even cross their mind that they should be honest people, because it's just so much easier to be a thief. It's just so much easier to manipulate people for money than it is to actually be an honest person. Many people who do drugs, someone who does cocaine would tell me all day how beneficial cocaine is. Someone who does cigarettes would tell me how beneficial cigarettes are. Someone who smokes corpses would tell me how beneficial smoking corpses are. Someone who does meth would tell me how beneficial meth is. Someone who does bath salts would tell me how beneficial bath salts are. It's all lies. It's all lies. All these drugs have detrimental effects on your body. And it's so easy to just listen to someone tell you how great these things are. Then do your own research and find out that these things are harmful for you. Your lungs do not process things that enter it the same way that your stomach does. Meaning, if you do things that, anything you smoke, right, gets stuck in your lung forever. It doesn't get removed. All the ashes that you breathe in, these things get stuck in your lungs forever. If you're someone who does weed, there's no difference between weed and and cigarettes. The ashes you smoke will get stuck in your lungs forever, and these things fester and decay and just kill your lungs. So no matter what drug you do, there's always extremely harmful benefits to it. Harmful, effects to it. If you kill your lungs, if you destroy your lungs, your entire body goes down with it. So it's easy to just follow someone when someone tells you, hey, this drug is so beneficial, it's easy to just listen to them and do it. It's peer pressure. When you feel pressured into doing something, it's just easy to just cave in and do it. It's easier to just tell them, yes, let me just try this. You know, are you an alcoholic? Let me just try, let me try doing alcohol. Oh, it doesn't matter what type of drug it is. The people who do them always they always try to force you or manipulate you into doing it as well. Misery loves company. People who do alcohol will tell you that, all the benefits of alcohol. They'll give you all the benefits of alcohol. The people who do marijuana will tell all the benefits of marijuana. They never tell you the downsides because misery loves company. And this is why the Bible always states that, this is why the Bible states that, you should not be around sinners. It does not benefit you to hang around sinners. Misery loves company. Sinners always want you to do exactly what they do. They want, they love forcing others around them to do the same thing that they're doing. Someone who smokes corpses will tell you all the benefits of smoking human corpses. Will try to manipulate you into doing, smoking corpses as well. And now you're smoking corpses, and now you're a criminal in the eyes of the law. You're digging up people's graves and smoking their corpses. If that isn't a great crime, I don't know what is. But in that social circle of corpse smokers, right? In that social circle, smoking corpses has all these benefits and no downsides. It doesn't cross their mind that going to jail, or in some countries, just digging up someone's grave is a crime, worthy of death. You could die just for digging up someone's grave. But it doesn't even cross their mind that very effect alone, that consequence alone, death, is enough for them to stop doing it. That is a negative effect of smoking corpses. Just the fact that you're smoking corpses alone, that's a death sentence in many countries. But someone who smokes corpses will tell you all the benefits without ever mentioning the fact that you're smoking corpses is enough for someone to kill you. If the government ever finds out, if the police ever finds out you're smoking corpses, it's over for you. You could die right there. They could hang you right there. And this is the problem with life, is that it's easier to go to hell than it is to go to heaven. It's easier to lie than it is to tell the truth. It's easier to smoke corpses when all your friends around you are smoking corpses. It's easy for you to just cave in and smoke corpses than tell them, no, I don't want to smoke corpses. I don't care about the benefits. Smoking corpses is wrong. Leave me alone. When you're around people who does marijuana, it's easier to just cave in and say, okay, let me do it as well. It's easier to go to hell than it is to go to heaven. But the downside of that is your life could be ruined. Your organs could fail overnight. You can end up being a normal, able person to someone, that has to walk around with an oxygen tank, the breathing mask. Your life will be ruined when you have to walk around with a breathing mask, where you always have to visit the doctor every few days, where you have, when you need someone, a nurse or some sort of practitioner standing by your side on a daily basis. Otherwise, you'll die. These are the consequences of doing drugs. When your organs fail, your body starts to feel miserable. You start to feel sick. Your body starts to feel pain. And sooner or later, you drug addicts will start to experience what hell truly means. When the Bible says hell sucks, it sucks. There's no happiness in hell. There's no happiness in hell. But it's easy to go to hell. It's easy to go to hell, but the consequences of going towards hell is not something you can possibly want to experience. It is not a great experience. When your organs start to fail, and your body starts to decay, and your body starts to break down, You start to realize that it was better if you had just said no. When your friends told you, "Hey, let's try this drug," it was better if you had just said no back then. Because now, right now, it's too late. Now, all the consequences of the years of going towards hell, you know, you start to experience it, and it's not a wonderful experience. It's a painful, excruciatingly painful experience. That's why it's called hell. You're never in hell yet. You're just going towards hell, and your life is already painful, extremely painful. And then when you die, when you die, you know what hell really means. So you have to really be careful in life. The benefits of going towards hell can be seen. There's monetary benefits, but the truth is, the downsides are far more than the benefits. The downsides, is that you'll never experience happiness ever again. It's easy to trick someone into a relationship. It's easy to trick someone into, doing drugs. But the downside is, if that person starts to suffer from the drugs you tell them are good for them, they'll blame you. You are the one who forced them to do drugs. You're the one who forced them to do drugs. So if they start to suffer from it, they'll blame you. They won't blame anyone else, you. You ruined their lives. And you have to pay for that. If you're someone who likes telling people to do drugs, you're the one who's ruining their lives. And you have to pay for that. If the person itself doesn't make you pay, God will make you pay. So you have to really be careful what you do in life. The bad choices are always the easiest. It's easy to pretend to be a rich person, and trick women into a relationship with you. It's very easy. Many women like, rich men. You pretend to be a rich person. You buy, you don't have to buy anything. You rent a luxurious car. You rent an expensive car for like a week or a few days. Take a girl out, pretend you're a millionaire because the car is, because you're driving a rented car that costs millions of dollars or hundreds of thousands of dollars, to buy. And then, you can get a girlfriend. The downside of it is, if she ever finds you lying, your life is over. Fraud is a crime. She can say, you defrauded her. She can say you scammed her. She can sue you in many different ways. That's if she wants to sue you. She doesn't want to sue you. If she's a violent woman, right? She can just outright kill you for lying to her. If she slept with you thinking you're a rich person and you turn out to be a broke person, your life could be over. She could tell her parents, her brothers, her family members, even the cops. It's kind of, it can even be considered rape. You tricked her into a relationship. You tricked her into the bed, into your bedroom. It is still a scam. That's the very definition of a scam, But it's easy to go that path. It's easy to lie to women. It's easy to lie to men. It's easy to lie to your spouses in order to get them into a relationship with you. But it's hard to stay in a relationship with a liar. It's hard to keep up your lies. It's easy to go to hell. It's hard to stay there. It's extremely painful to stay there. So, I always come back to this this biblical passage because it applies to life in so many ways. This is why, many people sin without thinking that, there are physical consequences of sin in this world, and there are. The Bible is telling you not to sin, not because, hey, you go to hell, you experience painful hell after you die. No. The Bible is telling you not to sin because you will have to pay the consequences of it. The painful and sorrowful consequences of sin. You are the one bringing your life, into misery. You are the one ruining your life every time you sin. The Bible is telling you not to sin because it is beneficial for you to stay away from, these bad things. It is beneficial for you to stop lying. You don't have to tell the truth, but you don't have to lie. It is beneficial for you to stay away from scamming others. It is beneficial for you to stay away from tricking others. It is beneficial for you to not smoke corpses. It is beneficial for you to stay away from doing evil deeds. And and it's beneficial for you here on earth, not in the afterlife, but here on earth as well. You pay for the consequences of your actions here on earth. If your life is miserable, it's because of your choices. If you think the Bible is mocking you by telling you not to sin, guess what? Sin, and you will experience the extremely tormenting, consequences of your actions. When the Bible tells you to stay away from sinners, it's telling you out of, for your own good, not because it's trying to control you. No one can tell you what to do. You can do whatever you want, but you have to pay the consequences of it. You are the one that will ruin your own life. Don't blame the Bible for not telling you. The Bible already told you the truth. If you decide not to hear it, it's on you. You are the problem. Don't blame God for your problems. If you stick your hands in an open flame and you get burned, do not blame the flame. Don't blame the flame for burning you. Blame yourself for sticking your hand in something that you already know will harm you. So you have to be very careful in life. It's easier to do evil deeds than it is to be a kind, honest person. It's easier to, get yourself in trouble than to stay away from trouble. It's easier to go to hell than it is to go to heaven. So that's it for today's podcast episode. I wish you guys well, and I pray for your success and health. Amen.